Okay. Our next panel is Rethinking Digital Advertising. The growing transition of community and ethnic media outlets to online delivery has created the need for building online ad revenues. The panelists here will discuss what community and ethnic publications need to know about online advertising. Michele McLellan, the research consultant at the Townite Center for Entrepreneurial Journalism, will moderate this panel. Michele is a writer, editor, and consultant who works on projects that help strengthen the emerging local news ecosystem. She's served as a Night Community Information Challenge circuit rider who advises community foundations that are supporting news and information projects in their areas. She founded the Block by Block Community News Summit for independent online community publishers and created and published Michele's List, a database of promising local news startups. And that's published in collaboration with the Townite Center for Entrepreneurial Journalism. Joining Michele on the panel are Liena Zagare, the publisher of Corner Media Group, Elizabeth Harrington, the Senior Vice President of Publisher Services at local Yokel Media, and Kenny Katzgrau, who is the founder of Broadstreet Ads. These are all industry experts in the realm of online advertising, and we're really excited to have them here. And Michele, I'll let you take it away.
Just get your microphone a little closer to you.
That better? Yes. That better? Okay, we'll try that. Well, I'm glad you've all stuck it out with us. I had a question for the audience just to kind of get a sense of where you are with online advertising. Among those of you who are publishers, how many of you are currently selling and publishing advertising online? Okay, so quite a few. And how many of you are selling and publishing exclusively traditional display advertising online? So a few of you are selling other products, other advertising products online? Anybody? Okay, great, thank you. So we have a little bit of sense of where everybody is. So I wanted to start out making a couple of observations about the advertising environment. Jeff mentioned that I recently completed a study of native advertising for the center, and that'll be out on Monday, and maybe we can send out the link at that point. But one of the reasons that sponsored content and native advertising is taking off is that display advertising is becoming increasingly a subject of skepticism. People don't like it. Some of it they find intrusive. Some of it they just ignore. So it's sort of a big question mark around display. And then earlier today, I got an email from a reporter saying that Borrell, which studies advertising, had just come out with a report that said that the amount of small and medium-sized business advertising, so that would be a lot of local advertising, on Facebook doubled last year. So we're looking at kind of a tough environment for publishers who have been selling local advertising online. So I wanted to ask each of our panelists first, and if you can kind of introduce yourself a little more so that people know where you're coming from. But I wanted to ask each, where is the competitive advantage in this environment for a community publisher, whether local or with a niche audience or a niche topic? Where is that competitive advantage in terms of still being able to derive online advertising revenue?
Testing.
Kenny, why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. I can hear me. All right.
I can hear me.
So my name is Kenny. I am the founder of Broadstreet Ads. Broadstreet is an advertising platform that caters almost specifically to local news publishers. So I deal with probably 300 to 400 local news publishers, and I speak to them quite frequently, probably maybe as many as 20 times a day via email, and then I get a few phone calls every day. And a lot of times I spend a lot of time talking with their publishers. And in terms of the competitive advantage of the local publisher, in the folder actually that you got at this conference, I have, basically I give my whole spiel. It's somewhere in there. It says it's a letter from Kenny Katzgrau. And I think local is where the competitive advantage is, because local publishers have the ability, they have total autonomy in regard to their site, and they have the ability to work with their publisher on a personal level that no other publication on a higher regional state level really can. So in regard to the competitive advantage, look at the competition on the national level. You see a lot of IAB ad standards, a lot of 300 by 250, 728 by 90s, and a lot of local publishers end up trying to sell the same thing. And what I say is that you can run whatever you want. You're dealing with the advertiser directly. You can build a very creative campaign for your client. And that could be sponsored content. We have a lot of publishers who are moving towards sponsored content because it works so closely with the client. And we also say that you can start selling different ad products. And this is the direction that Broadstreet has really been headed in. Start selling something different. So if there's a competitive advantage, it's that the publisher, especially on the local level, can do something totally creative, something so high performing, and ultimately renew that campaign based on performance metrics that are totally unbeatable on the national level. So it's about building a bespoke campaign that's creative, works with their client, and works with them on a level that none of your competition really can't match. So.
I'm Elizabeth Harrington. I'm with local Yokel Media, and my company is a platform, and we connect regional, national brands to local audiences. So we're part of the mix. I would agree with the people that were speaking beforehand that you look at your opportunity as an overall strategy, and what Kenny is saying is dead on. You've got your local content, you've got your audience, you can customize, you can sell at your rates, and you can sell something compelling that nobody else can get from platforms, programmatic networks such as our company. We come in and support and we bolster you from what you don't sell on a direct level. And that's something that I always like to make it clear to my local publishers. Get out there and knock your socks off and talk to your advertisers, understand what their needs are. Be a solution seller. Know what they're trying to achieve. Know what they want to say. Go into the door and do that. We're going to come in and help support you with the brands like a Starbucks, or we're going to support you with the Outback Steakhouse that has an interest of driving your audience into their doors, but they're not going to be as creative as what you can be. So local Yokel Media is connecting national brands or regional brands to your audience to help bolster your sales. And if I had to another step further, is you also have the opportunity to tell your story in so many formats. And quite frankly, I think the exciting place is video today, in terms of telling your content story and telling your audience what's going on in their community through video.
I'm Liena Zagare, and I guess my microphone there. So I publish a number of neighborhood news sites in Brooklyn, and we're digital only. Digital first, digital, that's it. I work with both Kenny and Elizabeth, and we use a lot of the products that Kenny has developed to sell to our neighborhood and Brooklyn-wide advertisers. Digital works. I mean, it is content in the way the content that we produce as publishers. I mean, anything that goes in our sites is content, including the ads that go on there. To the extent that we can create them interesting and engaging and something that our audience wants to see, we're successful. If we put random ads up, they don't do so well. So being selective, knowing who your audience is, and being able to restrict who can target your audience through the programmatic is another nice thing that you can do. Being able to pull in content that your advertisers are already promoting through their Facebook pages, through their Instagram accounts, in ways that are easy for them, makes it an easier sell, because they're just taking something that they already have and but can you hear me anyway? No, it's working. Well, this one's working. So, yeah, I think it's a mix. And the companies are going to be on Facebook, and they should be on Facebook. They're going to be on Google, and they should be on Google because they should be findable. And for some industries, it makes more sense to be on Instagram because it is a very visual product, and to the extent that you can make it super easy to integrate that with your audience is great. And I mean, Facebook and Google give us a lot of free information about our audiences, and it allows us to target our content, including advertising, to people who will get the best return.
I wanted to ask you a follow-up question. To what extent, I've heard some publishers say that they are able to attract and appeal to local advertisers more than, say, a Facebook or whatever, because they are seen as a community asset. Do you find that your sort of ties to your community play a role in your ability to sell advertising?
Yes, I mean, each advertiser has a number of reasons why they're advertising. I mean, one of them is to move product. One of them is to establish their brand and also to be seen as a leader in the community. And a lot of people who are our readers and are also our advertisers believe in the value of having institutions that provide daily neighborhood and community news, and that it serves a very important purpose and want to be associated with that. And yes, it's definitely, I mean, for some, we've had clients who are like, we really do not need to advertise, but then, we support what you do. So we'll take out a little ad, and, we don't expect anything in return. They get in return, but that is not why they're buying. They're buying because they want to be associated.
So let's go back through, Elizabeth, you mentioned video, and Kenny, you've been working on some interesting formats. Talk a little bit more about products and formats and what you see is working. Elizabeth, you want to start out, talk a little bit more about
Video? Yes, and what you said about display is resonates, I think, especially with the national and international publishers. Display effectiveness is wavering, but what I'm seeing in an industry is a spend in mobile and also in video to the tune of 80% growth. So what does that mean to you? That means if you have the opportunity to be telling your story through video and offering video content on your publication, advertisers in your community, especially in your neighborhood, hospitals, retail stores, you name it, education institutions can come do a pre-roll. They can do some format of large, which is now the big thing, is large player. And that means it's bigger than 400 pixels. You can really, the viewability is desirable by the advertiser. So that is the dominating message in my space of national and mid-sized publishers. And it's exciting because the rates, the CPM rates, which these players and the advertisers play within, are really starting to be more premium and more payout. The references earlier about networks, that's an area that I swim in. And you do see with display rates of 72 cents CPMs, and that's a discouraging experience if you're a small, niche, quality publisher, because you feel like, boy, I can't even cover my hosting service. So you need to be thinking about what's your best thing is your knowledge of your audience, the knowledge of the stories to tell, the content and the formats, and you'll have the opportunity to monetize better if you have video, as well as the print, as well as all the various formats.
So this is outside my expertise, so I'll show my ignorance here. But when I hear you talk about video advertising, I think, ooh, expensive, time-consuming. Is that the case? Or?
Well, you are producing video content, so it's taking it to the street. And Kenny, you probably can speak really well to this because of all your server experience and working with the publishers directly. I'm on the media distribution side of it, so I can't speak to pricing and how much it costs you. You could speak to that. Actually, you probably have a very good knowledge of that. I can tell you there's a hunger from advertisers on the regional level to national level for that content to come in and do a nice big ad. Cost? Here,
I mean,
this one. This one.
any kind of custom content is going to be expensive. If you have the capacity and really great camera people that can develop these things, still for the average mom and pop customer, it's going to be expensive. And what makes it more attractive, I think, and why it's taking off is that you have more platforms to distribute this content. It used to be just, you could only put it on cable TV and that's it, like your little ad is done. You can put it on Facebook, you can distribute it better, so the potential return on the life cycle of that product is longer, which would allow to justify even for smaller customers.
And just building on what Michele said before, the performance of standard display advertising is absolute. Maybe I'll take it a step further than Elizabeth. In my opinion, I think it's absolutely dismal. And this is coming from somebody who runs an ad server for a living. So basically, we work with our publishers, and I always say that we're kind of a partner with our publishers. We spend a lot of time thinking about what's actually going to sell, because most of our publications or our customers need to sell ads to survive. So how do we solve this dismal performance problem? And it's really just about, right now the internet has brought us a lot of incredible things. It's brought us real-time updates, social updates. It's brought us Uber. All of these things are connected to the internet. And we still have display ads, which are standard 300 by 250 banner ads. They're just images. They're ignorable. They don't ever get updated. So it's the same ad over the course of a 6-month campaign. You're not going to see a lot of performance out of that. And they're really, a lot of times there's no reason to actually engage with the ad. So there's no real information involved. It's just like, eat at bills, especially on the local level, you see that kind of thing. So in terms of what Broadstreet does, we try and bring products that the publisher can actually sell, something that the advertiser has never actually seen before. So if you look at some of our ads and some of the products that we build, we have ads that might pull from an advertiser's Facebook feed, pull in their latest post. Display some of the comments on there. And you might think like, okay, that's a pretty cool idea, but you know what? The effectiveness is 3 to 5 times the effectiveness of a typical display ad. All right, so when you talk about Facebook and we bring like competitors into the situation, even the legacy competitor that happens to be in town, chances are they're selling standard 300 by 250 banner ads, and you can completely outperform them just by changing the product. And there's so much on, from my background is at Yahoo's Right Media, so it's an ad exchange. And there's so much work that goes into the delivery of the ad. So how do we find the right audience? How do we target this ad? But what's the point of doing all this, this AI, this crazy AI, if what you're ultimately delivering to the user sucks? If it's something that's totally ignorable, there's no point in using all the tech. Deliver them something that is engaging, that's informational, and that the user is actually interested in. So we do pull in some of those social updates. We pull in some of those information. We make that advertisement something that ultimately performs extremely well. So I think my whole shtick is basically sell something good. That's it. If you're stuck selling 300 by 250 banner ads, I don't want to be in that business. Sell something that the advertiser has never seen before, that's going to impress them, ultimately is going to perform, and it's going to lead to a renewal. So you keep bringing in money. So.
Can you say a little bit more about what that would look like? It's not a banner ad. It's a.
I think that if I can jump in, it is what we're selling is space, right? It's space either in time or physically in the. It really is. It's you're going to see it, and it's going to be in your stream, or it's going to be next to your content. Whether or not it's interactive, I think is the big difference. Is like, how is that going to catch your eye? And some of the formats that Kenny's playing with is, it is content. That's why I keep saying that ads are content. It's just. Some people pay for them to be seen because they're not news and they're not newsworthy and they're not relevant to my reader in this time and space, according to my definition. But, you can get into that stream. There's a price for that.
Kenny, I wanted to ask you maybe to talk just a little bit more about sort of the additional kind of interesting formats that you're seeing that are
Oh, definitely. So, you know, and the reason I was talking so much about the social nature of some of those ads is because they really tend to work. I forget, somebody said it. Basically, your advertisers very often are on Facebook, and they should be on Facebook. But if you look at, you know, Facebook has an Achilles heel. All right, Facebook. You know, I have one of my favorite, and I bring this up a lot. One of my favorite restaurants is a place called 10th Burrito. And it's in a small town in New Jersey. They have 14,000 likes on Facebook. And I was looking at some of their recent posts, and some of their recent posts have 4 to 5 likes on them. So you have 14,000 page followers, and you're getting 4 to 5 likes. All right, so I don't think 10th Burrito is that enchanted with that kind of performance. So there used to be this chatter that, oh, social is going to take over, and like there's going to be no need for advertising ever again. Well, it turns out that now 10th Burrito has to boost their post to get in front of their audience. In terms of the reason I talk about social so much is that we can take some of that content, like Liena said, that's information, and a lot of what 10th Burrito puts out is not just promotional. It's not they're trying to say like, hey, look, our back patio's open, or hey, look, we have brunch on Friday. That's information that some people are very interested in. I'm interested in it. I don't see it as an advertisement. So pulling in that kind of real-time social nature and putting that on your site, that's really important. And so, you know, I keep alluding to the fact that Broadstreet builds these kind of formats. So it could be an ad that sits in your sidebar. We have this new product that's coming out, which is basically a social stream, and it's basically updates from your advertisers' Twitter, Facebook. They can text message into it. So we want to bring that social real-time nature to your site, and also blur the lines between information and advertising, because on the local level, it's not just trying to get a brand out there. It's not just trying to advertise. Your advertisers and your clients are relevant to the community, and users are interested in what they have to say. So it is very much about the informational aspect of advertising too. In fact, I don't even like saying the word ad. A lot of time I try to stay away from that just because I want the emphasis to be on information.
Okay, but I'm a traditional print journalist, so when I hear blurring the line, I'm kind of.
I know. I'm very aware when I say that.
And it's not I'm not trying to be totally reactionary, but I guess I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here. I mean, doesn't that also maybe take? I get that the local business community, local merchants are, you know, members of the community and experts in the community, but does that potentially undermine your credibility? Liena, maybe you could talk a little bit about
We'll talk about that. There is absolutely nothing that's different in the new world from the old world. I mean, you have to have that credibility, and it is essential that anything that anyone's paid for is marked as paid for. Because if it's good and interesting and relevant stuff, it's still going to get the eyeballs. And if it's not, it's still going to get the time in front of the people. But, you know, you've got to sell your product. So if somebody didn't do their job and didn't sell the product, they didn't sell the product. All I can do is put it in front of the people. And we're very, very adamant about marking everything that goes on our site as paid. Having more than just a static ad does is allow you to give them more of a voice and more formats that they can use to reach their potential target audience, and make it more engaging. And also, I mean, I keep thinking in terms of like a street you walk down, like what people have on our sites is like you are in the neighborhood, you see what's happening, and you see the little, like, one of those boards that people put on the street. But that's what I think ads are in the stream of consciousness. Like, there are these little boards, and like one day it says, you know, it's the happy hour, and the next day it says, you know, happy, I don't know, Mother's Day. And that's just the message they want to send. And it is a flicker, and it does go, but you pass that street with some frequency, and you see those things with some frequency, and you develop a relationship, whether or not you go in that very same day and patronize them.
a little bit about programmatic. We talked about it earlier, and Elizabeth, of course, you know quite a bit about it. I mean, I think there's sort of, for local publishers, what I've heard, as community publishers, there's sort of a pro-con there. So Elizabeth, you've given a lot of thought to how big you have to be for that to really make a difference. Can you talk first about that?
Yes. Well, to be clear, programmatic is looking at your audience through cookies. So you don't have to be huge because buyers, so think of the old kind of what happened on Wall Street where the floor was replaced with computers. And it seems to have happened where programmatic now, we have a seat on the big exchange where the brands have their buyers that are going out and looking for their profile of exactly what they want to buy. And they're looking at the local Yokel media. We're a specialized, hyper-local to local defined audience. So they'll come, they know that that means in the buyer's mind that we're going to offer the audience of newspapers and news bloggers and news stations. So the buyers are coming through, looking at local Yokel media's audience and picking out what they want. So programmatic it was really, really just cookie driven. Now it's getting a little more geocontextual. It's getting more refined with premium programmatic. It's getting more quality as we go along this ad tech experience. So you're missing out. If you have an ad server, that's the first thing. You need an ad server to be in the programmatic world, and that could be Broadstreet, that could be DFP, that could be OpenX, ad tech. All those players can hook you right up into the exchange. So you do need to have a website with an ad server. That's kind of the first requirement. Second requirement is then you're hooked in, and local Yokel media tags. We tend to go direct to our publishers. We give a tag. They are able to then say, local Yokel media, we do not want this company, this company, this company, this company, because they're in our neighborhood, and we don't want them sneaking in the back door. And we don't want this category, 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 category. So you have an opportunity to kind of filter what can happen with your audience, all right? So that's kind of what happens is you have the chance to go out and sell your creative products that really speak to your audience and really speak to the advertiser to drive what the ROI on that advertiser and also serve the need of the community. We're coming in as your second support team. We're coming in, that's your programmatic play. It's coming in, the bigger guys are starting to use programmatic as a baseline to establish what's our inventory worth on the market. So their direct sales have to beat it. But for you, you've got the advantage of your community, you have the relationship with the retailer or the buyer, you have the dialogue. So we just come in and we kind of bolster you up and take care of what you haven't sold for your mobile inventory, as well as your display inventory and video inventory. So programmatic is really a marketplace. It's all done, automated. You have to hook yourself up through your ad server into an exchange option like AdX, local Yokel media, Broadstreet. All of us have access points into the exchange.
So the point of hesitation, I've heard sort of 2 points of pushback on programmatic or national advertising, and one is just that a lot of the local startup publishers that I talk to, their localness is, I'm local, therefore I am. So anything non-local.
I heard a lot of that 5 years ago.
Really?
I heard a lot of that 5 years ago. I don't hear that as much because the people that are really local are doing a great job selling.
So they've established themselves. Is that, Liena, is that something that you've seen?
I mean, I think, again, it comes down to content, and I think a lot of the community and neighborhood news sites, you define yourself by writing about this very defined territory for these very particular people, and if ads are content, then content that is not local is a distraction. And in my mind, I've always had it that local ads are prime content that I really, really want, and then progressively the ads that I care less about are, the national ad that follows. But ultimately, there should be a premium for that. It's either location or price. So where you get displayed. So it's a ranking.
Yeah, I think it's also important for me not to say that we're not just national. Like, for instance, we just finished up a campaign with Alaska Airlines, and it was, thank you, Alaska Airlines, and it was specifically promoting various flights that were out of 5 areas, and that was the Northwest. And I ran for 3 years a campaign with Alaska Airlines, my tag to the local publisher, and those publishers loved me. And we went through, so Alaska Airlines had their agency doing programmatic. Then they had their agent, us, because we work directly with publishers to bring you direct campaigns that are targeted to a geography. So it was 3 years of Alaska Airlines, quarter after quarter after quarter, just repeating it because they wanted to hit San Francisco, they wanted to hit San Jose, Salt Lake City, Portland, and in each of those markets, I was working with like 25 local publishers, sending in millions of dollars. So it's, yeah, we do national programmatic, and it is the bottom dweller. But we also bring in the brands like Sonic Burger, Alaska Airlines, that have a very specific local message for a very specific person for a very specific ROI, and that really works. And that's what we were created to do. It's just with the whole programmatic evolution, it's all kind of filtering out and figuring out how to work best. And so we're getting now more programmatic and more targeted, but we also have that national ad to deal with.
So we've got a little more than 5 minutes. I want to see if there's any questions.
I have a question. I'm a videographer, video content producer,
Here you go.
coming from the editorial side, but understanding how it works in advertising. And and my partner and I, we just started a blog that's visual content driven. But we don't have the numbers. We just started. But the imagery is really good. It's really strong. And it seems to be, I think, moving in the direction that I've been hearing you guys talk about today. Storytelling, real stories. People telling their own stories. And for instance, we just did a video about a man for 40 years who worked as a refrigerator and washing machine repairman in the community. But he's also been creating beautiful sculptures of birds with cow horns. And, you know, his shop, if you see it, it looks like you're going to an old Sanford and Son episode. But we stumbled on this guy, you know, and so anyway, so we did a video and we shared his story, and it was so beautiful. Then I think just hearing you guys, I'm like, oh God, an insurance company would love this. Or, because it's real people, real stories. Well, I have 2 questions. One is, it's like, do you partner with visual content producers? Or do you go through like art buyers, like, or is it filtered, you know, kind of thing? Do we go, like, how do we reach somebody like you to possibly partner with? The other thing is, do you need model releases for this stuff? I mean, how, in terms of the legal aspect of the content, when you talk about advertising, because it's no longer, you know, editorial, it's
What was that last
money
question?
making. Model releases, like, do you need, you know, some sort of permissions, or, you know, with these real people that, you know, you'll end up using in your advertising?
Well, that's actually, that is your content, and then we bring in a brand on top of it through a tag. It's through technology, and Kenny, you can speak to it. Maybe you use their type of editorial content for ad, but we're media, and we're like a pre-roll to your fantastic story.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you're saying an insurance company would be perfect. If you had our tag and you had that player on your site, the tag is talking to the server saying, here's a large player, send an ad. Now, it can be controlled as a sponsored one through your own server, and it could be that insurance provider, or it could be Kenny's ads that come in and open up. I'll let you talk to your own ads.
Okay.
Or our ads that come and open up to that content. It's just like a post. It's like the display, but now it's running a live insurance ad beforehand.
Right.
Okay, a light bulb is going off here.
Right. And just out of curiosity, is that content, is that something you're charging for, or is that just is almost like a story in itself in
Well, it's interesting.
video form?
It's a new blog that we started.
Okay, so it's
our
like a
content.
video
Editorial.
blog.
3 weeks
Yeah.
old.
Interesting.
That's one of the stories, although there are many stories that we have, and we have just a few up.
I think you should put a tag on it, get the pre-roll, and then promote your content. Grow your audience. I mean, put it on YouTube.
It's up there, it's on YouTube. I try not to tag it too much because I wasn't sure which way to go. I thought,
Well,
geez,
a
it's
tag is an ad tag, not a tag as a blog tag.
Oh.
It's a technology, remember I was referring to an ad server, it's
Right.
the web-based, it's what Broadstreet is, it's what
I see what
DFP
you
is. So it's a
Okay.
different tag. It's out of your blog thinking and into your ad serving thinking.
It's like an embed code on YouTube. You just like paste it into your site and stuff shows up. You know, so.
And then maybe get it to a local publisher who might be interested.
That's my next question. Do I partner with a publisher? Do I partner with
So,
do we all get together? I
in-
mean, how does that?
I think an interesting model, just that I've seen, there's a
Yes.
site that actually is very close to Broadstreet's. Basically our beginning was a site called Red Bank Green, and that was just classic hyperlocal news website. But one of has become a partner is a site called Shore Sports Zone. So Shore Sports Zone was started by a former sports news anchor down in like North Carolina or South Carolina. Came up here, interested in building a site all around high school sports, Jersey Shore, and he partnered with Red Bank Green. And he said, hey, Red Bank Green, you don't have a sports section. And John Ward, who's the publisher of Red Bank Green, had no interest in covering high school sports. So they started working together and driving a lot of traffic between each other. So I think if you can find a partner, that's really big, especially somebody that already has the traffic, the eyeballs, and might be interested in some of your content too.
That's great.
Does that then
This-
limit her ability to sell directly?
I'll start there.
To be what you did actually sounds like something that a lot of people would pay for in the first place. So it's not like, how many, you're talking about insurance companies, how many insurance companies would love to have someone coming in doing video, especially, with a nice polished video. That's really powerful stuff. Just it's along the line of sponsored content too.
Right, and one thing I saw in sponsored content, and it wasn't video, but I could see video working really well, were stories about places or interesting people in places. And the sponsor was like the guy who was the developer of something in that block. He was developing a new building that they were going to start to be selling or renting space in. But so it was this sort of the feel of the neighborhood through this neighborhood character. And it did really well. It didn't go viral, but it did quite well according to the publisher. So, you can sort of think about that in terms of, when and if you want to get into directly selling. I think sponsorships would probably work.
And what
This-
department is that?
This is the third seminar or conference that I came to understand issues that has to do with programmatic advertisement, online ads, automatic responses. And I am pretty sure many of us in the publishing business understands the automatic part of it, about clicking, or sometimes when you fill up a form and you didn't finish it, all of a sudden you got a whole bunch of advertisement coming to get you into the sales of that particular purchase. It never happened. And I do understand that there are some data that is taken where it's a logical output of what kind of people was clicking in there. I don't know if you're buying diapers and baby beds, and this is supposed to be a woman pregnant or a family having a baby, things like that. In the other seminars, I put the panels in the spot, so let's see how you're going to respond to this. How are these programmatic how can I call it, scripts designed not to be offensive? This is an ethnic conference. How are they careful not to send Latino advertisement because the last name of the person was Hernandez, or I don't know, Jewish advertisement because they was asking about some history issues or something related to the Holocaust? How these automatic features are be careful not to offend anybody in the ethnic part of it. You understand what I'm trying to ask?
Right. If I understand the question, anyone correct me. It's how do you prevent offensive advertisements from flowing through programmatic? Right. And I think there are a ton of concerns. It's not even just the culturally sensitive part. It's just how do you not offend people? A lot of times, I think even some local publishers, if they have Google AdWords, you might have a divorce lawyer who comes through, and somebody doesn't like the fact there's a divorce lawyer on the page. It's like, how do you prevent the advertisements or filter them out if they might be offensive? I can say that on Yahoo side, when I worked at Yahoo, there was a team that was dedicated specifically to filtering out that stuff and categorizing ads. Stuff gets through anyway. So it's a potentially a weak point in programmatic in that you're not always sure. It's fairly opaque in terms of where the actual advertising content is coming from, but I think Elizabeth might want to add to that.
I'll try to add to it. I'm not a data specialist, but I do know what's going on now is what's happening from a data perspective is that the understanding and retargeting of you is not just taking from just your behavior from just your online behavior. It's also pulling from your everything from, it goes deep, post office information. It's much data that's being gathered about you exactly to who you are so these exchanges and these big brands or national brands or regional brands are targeting you exact. So they're spending a lot of time and effort to make sure that they're hitting it right because they don't want to spend the wrong dollar on the wrong person as well. Right. And I'm not on the brand side, so I'm not making those decisions as to what is allowed and not allowed to represent that brand. But we do have standards of what is allowed to run through our network, but it's usually more, it's not so down to a individual level. So the brands are investing greatly so they effectively target you. Sorry, that was a real general answer. Really general. I think I'll get your information. I'll send you some good information from folks in data.
Okay, I think we have one more question.
Hi, I'm Kimberly. I work with the Red Hook Star Review in Red Hook, Brooklyn. I gotta tell you a little bit about my organization before I can ask this question. I'll try to keep it brief. My publishing partner worked in newspapers 40 years ago. Started his own company and started publishing a newspaper about 5.5, 6 years ago. We are still operating a print newspaper that is a 1970s newspaper. I wasn't even born yet. I have been granted a certain amount of creative license to take our advertising forward because we have a small community newspaper, and quite frankly, people try advertising with us for about 3 months, print advertising only, and they stop because, as you can imagine, it's not effective. The extent of our online advertising, we actually have 2 websites. One is more of a blog. The other one is basically, it's Dreamweaver. It's a complicated PDF. And on this website, our homepage is the community Google Calendar. And we have a small ad up top from Sprint that we get a penny on that every time somebody clicks it. I think we've made about 17 cents in the past couple of months. And I'm pretty sure that I've clicked it at least 8 times. So, by accident, of course. So, in all of this, first of all, I have a notebook full of things in the margin that says, look up this, look up that. My question is, in this kind of environment, where do I start? What would you advise that I do as the first thing? I do also have about a 9-page media kit that is so ridiculous. I'm working on it. Sorry.
Right. I would say step 1, get on WordPress, drop this Dreamweaver thing. Just get on an actual CMS that you can work with online.
We have 2, so one of them is a WordPress.
Okay, awesome. The second thing I would say, what I've seen some publishers do, especially before they kind of made the total conversion to online, was start working in online buys with the print buys. So getting the advertisers used to actually running their ad online. Even if you're just tossing it in, you just want to get them used to it. The other thing is you want to show them the performance at the end of the campaign. Because with a print buy, it's kind of hard to show any sort of metric that shows the campaign is actually working. So one thing Not you know, calling out Broadstreet specifically, but I'm just saying one thing that we do is that at the end of a campaign, we provide a report, white labeled report, publisher's name and everything, and we'll show everyone who clicked, everyone who engaged. This isn't just clicks, it can be any sort of metric. If it's a real estate ad, you know, how many times did people click through the different gallery? How many people did they look at this house? Show all of those metrics and show them where they came from. So we can pinpoint them, say it came from this part of Brooklyn, you know, you got this many people engaging with the ad, it's the actual proof, the internet service provider, the IP, all of that information to legitimize the number that ultimately you bring back in your report. Because with print, you have no metrics, and then in, I'd say 99 out of 100 online platforms right now, you still have a number that you bring back to the advertiser. You're like, hey, you got 10,000 clicks, and I don't know where they came from. We're trying to take that a step further and turn that into actual humans. So we can say, hey, we got 9,000 of those clicks came from Brooklyn, and the other 1,000, well, you know, that happens. You know, people from random parts of the country. But we can prove that this campaign actually performed to some degree. So I'd say generally, you know, getting your clients into the mode of thinking about online advertising is the right idea. And I think throwing in online advertising has worked for some of our publishers. I don't know if you guys want to add anything or.
No, I think that pretty much covered it.
I just wanted to add to Kenny's point, is that, you know, I think that the idea of getting print advertisers used to and comfortable with online advertising is really good. But I also have a friend who says never give anything away for free unless you're prepared to give it away forever. You know,
Right.
There's this sort of countervailing force where, you know, online advertising may be undervalued in some respects. So
Right.
don't feed that beast.
I think the
give them a discount, the introductory discount.
Right. Debbie Gallant of Brissinet always said, make it very clear at the beginning that it's an introductory offer. This is like a thing you get in the beginning. It's not going to be this way forever. Because once you give it away for free, it's kind of hard to charge for it after that. All set.
Thank
I
you.
think we will break
Yes.
up for a cup of coffee. And thank you so much for such a fantastic panel. We'll be back like after about 10 minutes for the last panel.
Sorry about all the mic trouble.
Well, it may be me.
Right
you
now,
know.
we have a product that we're really focused on.
Everyone,
Once that's
the
up
other
and
people were
running,
able to
we'll
hold it
get
in, but we're
marketing.
okay.
Facebook does provide some mechanisms for like third-party ad servers to inject its own ads, but I think right now it's limited to just images. Right, exactly. There's some initiatives online that like say, all right, let's limit it to one image, one JavaScript file, whatever. But the point is, I think that's one of Facebook's big weaknesses, that you ultimately have to homogenize everybody, and then at what point, where's the value anymore? So, I mean, if everyone's instant articles, I don't think it's going to be the killer. I do think I explained to Joe earlier. I think there's actually a much more nefarious scheme behind it, but. Okay, the nefarious scheme is that right now Facebook's so like, yeah, you get to keep 100% of your own ad revenue, and I think